We're here to make a new type of news.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Making news just for you. It's April 5th here in Seoul. I'm Shin-Yoon, and this is News Generation, where we make the news at Arirang's very own open studio. Every morning, we'll discuss the top issues and latest current affairs affecting people in their 20s and 30s. Joining me in the studio is Kim Xiang.
Good morning, Yan.
And Cheska Dainong.
Happy Arbor Day!
Happy Arbor Day! And both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. Now, we're going to start with the news feed, and the news feed covers different hashtags and news items that have been trending on social media over the past 24 hours. And we'd like to start with Dogecoin. Dogecoin's value jumped 30% once Twitter changed its iconic bird logo to a Shiba Inu, a symbol often associated with the coin. An image of a dog featured in viral memes was uploaded, allegedly as a part of a late April Fool's Day gag from the company's owner, Elon Musk. Currently, the billionaire is being accused of engaging in a pyramid scheme by promoting Dogecoin. And the second is J.K. Rowling's legendary Harry Potter book series, which could be made into a TV series. Bloomberg reported that Warner Bros. Discovery is looking to close a deal so that a TV season would be made from one of the books. Under the deal, Rowling would still have a major say to how it would be created, so our attention is geared there. And the legendary Korean trot singer Hyunmi died on Tuesday at the age of 85. The president of her fan club found her dead at her home, and police are still investigating the cause of her death. Hyunmi started her career by joining the U.S. Army Band in 1957 and has since become one of South Korea's most renowned singers. Now, let's now pay respects to the late Hyunmi by listening to the song that placed her towards the Hall of Fame. It's her 1962 release, Night Fog. Take a listen. So that was Hyunmi's Night Fog, and many were very shocked to lose such legendary singer. And Cheska, I think you were quite shocked with the news as well. Were you a big fan of her?
I know she was definitely beloved by my grandparents' generation, and I know she touched the heart of many Koreans, as you can tell by the, the emotion in the song. And I would also say that she's probably the pioneer of K-pop.
Definitely.
And it is legends like her that really helped us get to where we are today in terms of our culture. So may she rest in peace.
May she rest in peace. And Xiong, I remember we were having lunch with our teammates when we heard the news, and you were quite shocked as well.
I was very shocked. I mean, as Cheska mentioned, but most of the Korean population do know about Hyunmi. A lot of her songs featured in films as well as different entertainment, drama series and things like that. And Hyunmi actually debuted as a singer in 1957, so it's been quite a while, at the age of 20 as well. She, I think, also, as Cheska mentioned rightfully, maybe not K-pop, but I think the jazz pop genre was definitely created and led by artists like Hyunmi, who you can see from the iconic sort of husky voice as well, really sort of calming, and you could hear the development of the jazzy sort of instrumentals as well, which really marked a bit of a landmark in Korean music industry as well.
And she will remain a legend, and may she rest in peace. That was our news feed for this Wednesday. Now, moving on, April 5th is Arbor Day in Korea. It's a day encouraging people to plant more trees in order to tackle climate change. In light of this, let's see how much our generation values environmental issues. Did you know that around 65% of millennials and Gen Z in Korea would choose to buy a product based on whether it's environmentally friendly instead of its price? Last year, the Korea Chamber of Commerce and Industry did a survey on 380 young people. 6 out of 10 said they preferred ethical businesses that uphold environmental, social, and governance values. This survey is just one of the many indicators that show how invested the next generation is towards saving the planet. Today, News Gen looks at 3 questions. 1. What are some key environmental issues the new gen in Korea want to tackle? 2. How far has Korea come in terms of dealing with climate change? 3. What can we do more to save the environment? So today is Arbor Day, a day we commit to planting more trees. And recently, we've been seeing more and more people shed light on various environmental issues, and that's partly due to a lot of natural disasters or abnormal temperatures. So here in the studio, what are some issues that caught your attention?
I mean, definitely for me, air and water pollution, because let's face it, those two are the essential elements that we can't practically live without.
Right.
Very tangible ones as well. You can feel it on our skin.
Exactly. And the golden time for breathing is 4 minutes. So basically, if we don't breathe for 4 minutes, we're gone. There's nothing we can do. And in 2018, OECD ranked us as having the worst air quality among top 35 rich countries. And as many Koreans know, we do have the yellow fine dust that blows from China and the desert. But also there are some problems in South Korea that also exacerbates this air quality issue as well.
Right, and what breaks my heart is when you see elementary school students who should be going out to playgrounds and playing,
that's so
but they always have their masks on.
Even without COVID,
I know,
we've
with
been seeing that
COVID,
the past few years.
But with no mask mandates, they're still having them on because of this really bad air quality. But Xiang, what are some issues that caught your attention these days?
I mean, I think I'll focus on the more recent issue. And so not only pollution, but real environmental threats are happening near us as well. A fire broke out last Sunday morning, 2nd of April, on Mount Inwang, a popular hiking destination in Seoul's Jongno district. Around 120 households were evacuated, but no deaths or injuries were reported. Actually. And Korea Forest Service also reported that they have been containing forest fires across Chungcheong province, south of Seoul, which started over the weekend as well. So more than 60 homes and buildings were damaged by fire, and at least 236 people were evacuated in Hongseong County. So, I mean, to be honest, we can see there's a bit of rainfall today, and it's quite a blessing that on Arbor Day we're seeing such heavy rain, which will definitely help with the situation of the forest fire around the country.
Definitely, because up till yesterday, we've been seeing around 20
very
different
severe.
fires. Exactly, officials were trying to get them out. But Xiang, why do you think a growing number of the new generation are interested in environmental issues?
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few reasons. First would be sort of increased awareness, stemming from the widespread availability of information, often from the internet, including social media, having different environmental campaigns everywhere, and promoting environmental activism. So also many schools and universities now also include environmental education in their curriculum as the basis, as well as corporates focusing on CSR guidelines to increase responsibility of their actions as well. But first and foremost, I think the sense of responsibility to ensure habitable planet for the future generations, as we can now experience firsthand the visible and tangible effects of environment change, seeing from the water pollution, the air pollution and things like that. I think that being on our skin, we can really want to, the new generation really wants to change that and make a better planet for the coming generations.
Water levels are also rising as well. We're seeing so many different natural disasters almost hitting us. So it's not only for the next generation, it's also about the survival of our current generation. So why don't we now hear from an environmental activist to see what other main issues there are and find out more on how we can better save the environment? So climate change seems to be speeding up, and how do we know? Well, have you ever heard about this quote before? Take a look at the screen. So the quote says, "If the bee disappeared off the face of the earth, man would only have 4 years left to live." Have you guys ever heard about this quote?
I actually have
Wasn't
not.
it possibly Einstein?
I know a lot of people actually attribute this quote to Albert Einstein, who often talked about colony collapse disaster. And this was a mysterious disease that swept through the United States and European honeybee hives. And ecologists say there's actually no evidence whether Einstein was the one who said it, but the quote itself does have some weight, and that's because bees are major pollinators and plants need them to survive and thrive. That is why we have a biodiversity campaigner at Greenpeace who's also interested in saving more bees. It's Tae-young, who also works to expand better environment for bees. Welcome, Tae-young.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Good morning, Tae-young.
All right, Taeyong, so how much do you agree to the quote we just talked about? Without bees, mankind would only have 4 years left to live.
Definitely agree with that statement. Even though there's no hard evidence that Einstein ever said that, unlike many people believe. But many researchers consider the statement itself to be very true. Bees are one of the most important pollinators on Earth, not only maintaining our ecosystem, but also our food supply. UN FAO estimates that out of some 100 crop species, which provide 90% of food worldwide, 71 are bee pollinated. Among them, there are vegetables and fruits including apples, almonds, blueberries, and more. Not only them, but even meat can also be scarce too, as the main feed of cow consists of alfalfa, which is also bee pollinated. Sadly, those pollinators, including bees, are decreasing globally right now, and the damage is becoming visible to us. Therefore, to avoid the worst case scenario, which is that bees are extinct so mankind would be in danger, we have to act now.
Yeah, I mean, interesting with what you're saying, Taeyong. I think we're also looking at sort of high-tech alternatives for bees as well. I've heard news about mechanical bees being invented to carry out the pollinating process instead of organic bees. I mean, do you have any opinions on alternative, sort of technological alternatives that exist for these environmental measures?
Well, as far as I know, the alternative ways is not yet developed enough to alter this natural bees pollination power.
So we would definitely have to focus more on expanding their, saving them a bit more. And I think that has to do with the type of campaigns you do for Greenpeace, right? So anything you have in mind for today, with it being Arbor Day, can you explain to us what type of campaigns you do?
Well, first of all, let me tell you the problems in Korea about the bees.
All right.
Well, there are several reasons why bees are disappearing in Korea. Not only varroa mites, which are the parasites of bees, but also climate change, pesticides issues, and last but not least, the lack of honey plants. And yet, the Ministry of Agriculture, which controls the honeybee issues as the honeybees are classified as livestock, announced that the reason of current bee issues is due to the varroa mites. And the climate change is not a major cause of bees' disappearance. Not only that, they claim that there is no such impact on the ecosystem from bees' disappearance because wild bees can pollinate instead of honeybees, and artificial pollination can be conducted too. We, the Greenpeace Seoul office, issued a statement against the government, and we diagnosed these issues as the Korean government considers bees as honey-producing livestock, not as pollinator, which protects and sustains the ecosystem. Also, bees in Korea, including wild bees, are in grave danger, and yet the Korean government does not consider this issue as a crisis, so does not present any effective policy.
I see.
Under this diagnosis, we asked the government to establish the Bee Saving Committee under the Prime Minister, so not only the Ministry of Agriculture, but also the Ministry of Environment, Korea Forest Service, and many more ministries can manage the bee issues and provide a better environment for bees constantly. To make this happen, we are gathering petitions from the public by delivering the fact that bees are imperative for a sustainable ecosystem and food supply. While doing so, we are also delivering our suggestion to government in form of statements, letters, and other activities. Well, under this circumstance, Arbor Day is very important to bees in Korea, as they are in dire need of more honey plants. Honey plants are trees or flowers which can provide nectar and pollen to bees. If there are more honey plants, bees can provide it with valuable nutrients such as carbohydrates and protein, which are important for building up bees' immune systems and enlarging their lifespan. However,
and I think that's very important. We do need to find more ways to spread more information about the importance of bees. But I think on a personal level here in the studio, we're curious as to how we can tackle climate change. Do you have any suggestions?
Well, personally, Well, individual efforts such as saving more electricity and avoiding using plastic are also important, but that kind of effort itself cannot cope with this climate change issue 100%. Well, we need a transition of the power system from fossil fuels to renewable energy to minimize carbon emissions, and we also need to preserve more ecosystems, including the Amazon, which can absorb more carbon dioxide. To do so, we need to constantly demand that the government and corporations be responsible so that the global temperature does not rise by more than 1.5 degrees. And for the bees, we need to plant even more honey plants.
All right. Thank you so much, Taeyong. That was a very insightful discussion we had with you just now.
Thank you, Taeyong.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and Cheska, I think Taeyong made a lot of fascinating points right there. Any that really caught your attention?
I think you raised a very important point by pointing out that honeybees are actually considered a livestock, not just pollinators. And livestock basically has to do with the survival of how we live in this ecosystem, right? So I think he was very passionate. He made a plea for why it's so important to take care of this livestock that actually creates an ecosystem that we can safely survive and live long, basically.
Right, and I think our viewers have their own hacks on how to better save the environment. So if you take a look at the screen, you'll see some of our viewers and their comments on what type of environmental issues concern them and what they're doing to tackle them. So SV said, I'm concerned about medicine and hormones in our water supplies and oceans. Ocean acidification and acid rain. I manage an apple orchard. And Art said, fine dust, sea level rise, Fukushima water release, and these are some things that concern her. Brooke Parsons says, sustainable solutions for everyday life, convenient and easy to follow for busy working people. Now, let's swiftly move on to our discussion. Though it's quite worthwhile to see many people changing little parts of their lives to save the environment, I think what's also very important is that climate change requires the government's help.
Absolutely.
Right? And so, Cheska, what are some efforts being made currently?
So from the public domain, government have definitely forced a lot of strict regulations, such as shutting down coal-fired plants and limiting the hours of operation on some sites that produce too much industrial dust. But on top of that, one thing that was very interesting was the government started employing high technology using 5G robots and drones to patrol air quality. Now, the goal for next year is to reduce fine dust level by over 35%. And I truly hope that we reach that level because there's so much going on in the air at the moment, and we would all like to breathe safely and happily.
You mentioned a very good point there, because the Science Ministry is trying to implement many different scientific advancements to save the environment. But Xiang, what are some other goals that the government has been setting so far?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with what Cheska said. There are a lot more things happening to achieve some of the goals that the government is pursuing. So what I think we should talk about the most recent policies and some of the goals that the Yoon government has unveiled. On the 21st of March, the Korean government unveiled a blueprint for achieving 2050 carbon neutrality and green growth. This is to achieve the NDC, short for Nationally Determined Contribution, by 2030. Which is a target submitted every 5 years to the UN FCCC since the Paris Agreement. This blueprint presents greenhouse gas reduction policies for 10 major industrial sectors and 6 socio-economic areas. Now, let's have a look at the exact figures. You can see how far the South Korean government aims to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. The units used in this chart is 10,000 tons of CO2 equivalent, and the percentages depict emissions reduced compared to 2018 as the base year. The presidential office passed an enforcement decree in March last year to reduce GHG emissions to 40% lower than 2018, down to 436.6 million. By 2050, Korea aims to reach 100% reduction of greenhouse gas emissions as well.
And these are definitely good goals right there, but the talk of the town among climate activists is that they might not be too strong enough to, bring about better change, especially since the government changed, lowered the amount of emissions compared to the previous administration, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the Presidential Committee on Green Growth and Carbon Neutrality actually continued from the previous government, Moon Jae-in's government, and they have definitely similar goals as well. I mean, they do have the same achievements. They do have what we call the NDC submitted to the Paris Agreement, the organizing committee. So we do have the similar goals and that we should be working forward to no matter what government we're under.
Right, but they were better hearing from corporations and trying to find more feasible ways so that, the goals may not be too hard to achieve. But you know what? Climate change is such a hard topic that we can do in our daily lives, and it should be done on a daily and in our personal lives as well.
Absolutely.
So I would like to ask you guys, do you guys think of any unique or unconventional ways we could tackle climate change, starting with you, Xiang?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a few. First of all, I mean, you could do simple things like changing to an energy-efficient LED light bulbs.
That's true.
But I think more niche objectives could be sort of investing in renewable and divest from
a good
fossil
one.
fuels as well.
Very true.
And you might think investing in these sectors might be a little difficult, but many countries also now operate local renewable energy co-ops as well, which you can join to create regional change. Investing in nuclear fusion instead of nuclear fission, which doesn't create any radioactive waste, could be a good idea. And things like, high-tech things like blockchain can also contribute to the transparency of, the carbon emissions of corporates as well as individuals to take more responsibility and make change for the better future.
Right, and speaking of data, I think, though it may be hard, one tip I have for you is stop using the internet. It might be too hard, but
That is so difficult, but true.
It is
But true, yes.
because the energy needed for like an email or like a simple internet search might not be too much in terms of like emission, but if it piles up, it can lead to a lot of the accumulation can lead to major greenhouse gases. And studies show around 3.7% of global greenhouse emissions come from us using the internet, and this may double in 2 years' time. So this is my tip. But what about you, Cheska? Do you have any unconventional tips for us?
Yes, so apart from the high-tech campaigns that we have, I would like to provide a more hands-on approach.
All right.
So plogging is definitely a great one.
Plogging?
Plogging, yes. So it's when you walk or jog in any beautiful places, beaches, parks, and you pick up trash on the way.
Oh, that's really nice.
It's a great workout
that
because
is.
you move your body and you also engage with the environment. And another very interesting campaign that I'm particularly interested in is food waste. So I use dehydration machine, which is very cheap and makes the food waste very compact.
Right.
But also a campaign called the Inglorious Food and Veggies.
Right.
AKA the ugly food campaign.
I love that. What is it?
So it's a pun on a movie, but what it does is it recycles this discarded food waste, not food waste, food items that have been discarded because of its appearance, and they transform it into jams or smoothies, or even sell it at a lowered price so that people can actually use these perfectly good and tasty food.
And reduce waste.
Exactly.
All right, and saving the environment is directly related to us. Battling climate change is to do with survival. That's why it should be our top priority. And we'll be here every day from 9:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. Korea time, bringing you the topics that young people are talking about. Special thanks to Kim Xiang
My pleasure.
and Cheska Dainha.
Pleasure's always mine. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. We are
New Generation.